Welcome back to Superbly Said Advanced English Vocabulary and Phrases.
Yeah, and today's deep dive actually comes to us from a SpeakDuo lesson. So for those of you listening, you can go to SpeakDuo.com to meet new people from around the world, who are practicing English on video calls to become more confident with their speaking abilities.
Exactly. And we are completely skipping the basics today. This is a fast-paced, high-level breakdown specifically for advanced English learners.
Right.
So we're just jumping right in. We were starting with, how sudden events hit us, right? And how we choose to react to them.
Yeah, that initial shock.
Exactly.
Right.
So the first idiom is being hit like a ton of bricks.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, so imagine you're at work, you open an email, and you see news about, sudden company changes or layoffs. The news hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, it really does.
Or if you're doing an IELTS speaking test, maybe you're describing seeing a terrible accident on the news, you'd say it hit you like a ton of bricks. But, why use this? Why not just say, I was caught off guard?
Well, because caught off guard really just means your defenses were down, It's mere surprise.
Right, like a pop quiz.
Exactly. But if something hits you like a ton of bricks, it carries this intense, visceral, emotional weight. Think about the physics of that phrase.
A literal ton of bricks.
Right. It's a sudden crushing power. You aren't just surprised, you're momentarily, physically, or emotionally flattened by the severity of it.
Oh, I see. It stops your momentum entirely.
Yeah, exactly.
Which perfectly transitions to the next one, because how you react when you're hit by those bricks is so important. So the next phrase is to take in your stride. So say you get hit with an unexpected daily routine problem, like, I don't know, for an IELTS example. Your car breaks down on the way to something important. Instead of panicking, you take it in your stride. Or a workplace example, your boss gives you really harsh criticism on a project. You take it in your stride and just use it to improve.
Yeah.
But I gotta ask, isn't this basically just ignoring a problem?
So that's a super common misconception, actually. It's the opposite of ignoring it.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because, to ignore something means you actively avoid the issue entirely. You look away. But to take something in your stride means you deal with the difficulty calmly, without losing your momentum.
Oh, I like that.
You don't stop walking, you process it, and you keep moving forward.
Like shock absorbers on a car.
Yes! Perfect analogy.
You hit a pothole, the suspension takes the hit, but the car keeps moving at the same speed.
Exactly, you don't spill your coffee.
Right. But, let's be honest, we don't always do that. Sometimes we fail to take things in our stride, and we end up getting all steamed up.
Oh, yeah. We all been there.
Definitely. Picture a colleague whose lunch order arrived 10 minutes late, and they're just pacing around the office, complaining to everyone. They're all steamed up.
Totally.
Or, for IELTS, describing a missing delivery that was left on the wrong doorstep in the rain. You were all steamed up. But how is this different from just being furious?
Well, being furious implies this cold, deep, and usually justified anger, right?
Right.
But being all steamed up implies the anger is, highly agitated, and to be honest, slightly ridiculous. It's disproportionate to the actual offense.
It's like a kettle boiling over violently, but just for a single cup of tea.
Yes, exactly. It's usually a minor inconvenience that you've just let completely agitate you.
And when you're that agitated, you make mistakes. Which brings us to our second section, mistakes and their consequences.
This is where the real trouble starts.
Oh, yeah. And the phrase here is to make a hash of it.
I love this phrase.
Me too. So imagine your boss or a colleague is trying to rush through a report while they're steamed up and they completely ruin it. They have to restart from scratch. They made a hash of it.
Yeah, totally ruined.
Or an IELTS story about a first attempt at cooking, right? Where you burn the sauce and ruin the kitchen. You made a hash of it. But why not just say they made an error?
Because making a hash of it is so much worse than an error.
Oh, really?
Yeah, an error can be clean. You hit the wrong key on a keyboard. But to make a hash of it means you've created a complete disorganized mess. It usually happens due to severe carelessness or just a total lack of skill. It's not a single mistake. It's a structural disaster.
Because hash is like a culinary term for a messy mix of chopped up food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've chopped the task into a messy, unsalvageable pile.
And if you make a hash of something really important, well, then you have hell to pay.
Oh, boy. Yes.
Right. Imagine you almost delete a main corporate file, or you miss a really vital client deadline. There will be hell to pay. But is this the same as just getting in trouble?
Not at all. Getting in trouble is what happens if you're 5 minutes late from lunch.
Right, right.
Hell to pay implies severe, unavoidable, and usually systemic consequences. It's the ultimate dread.
Wow.
It means the consequences are going to rain down on you from all sides. A massive debt was created by your mistake, and it is going to be collected.
So it's not just a private scolding, it's explosive.
Exactly. It's public and painful.
Well, sometimes, and this moves us to our next theme, sometimes the hell to pay isn't from an honest mistake. Sometimes it's from our own stubbornness.
Oh, self-sabotage.
Yep, doing things out of sheer cussedness.
That is a very advanced phrase.
It is. So imagine a colleague absolutely refusing to use an easier new corporate system. Or an IELTS example where you refuse to download a new app just because your friend said it was better and you want to be difficult.
Yeah, that contrarian streak.
Right. But how is doing something out of sheer cussedness different from being principled?
Well, if you do something on principle, it's because you actually believe in it. You have a moral stance.
Right, a genuine belief.
But doing it out of sheer cussedness means you are being contrarian purely to be difficult or annoying. You know you're wrong, but you just won't bend.
It's just pure stubbornness.
Exactly. It's almost petty.
And another way we self-sabotage, especially at work, is when we overextend ourselves.
Yes. Very common.
Right, like saying yes too much. In an IELTS scenario, maybe you take on too many university courses and jobs at the same time. Or a colleague takes on too many volunteer roles and completely burns out.
Yeah, it's a real issue.
But, I mean, isn't this just being really busy? People use those interchangeably, I think.
They do, but there is a crucial nuance. Being busy means you have a full plate. You have a lot to do, but you are managing it.
Okay.
To overextend yourself means you have actively crossed the line into physical or mental inability to cope. You've stretched the rubber band until it's about to snap.
So you literally cannot handle the responsibilities anymore.
Right. You've exceeded your structural capacity.
Okay, so that leads us nicely into exploring how we use our time from stalling to total success. And let's start with the absolute lowest productivity to muck about.
Ah, mucking about.
Imagine a team in the office avoiding a project by gossiping. They're mucking about. Or an IELTS response where you admit you watch silly DIY videos online instead of studying. But why not just say you're relaxing?
Because relaxing is intentional rest. It's good for you.
Right? You need it.
Exactly. But mucking about is unserious, completely unproductive behavior, specifically when you know you should be doing something useful.
Oh, so there's an element of guilt to it.
Yes, you are actively avoiding work.
Now, sometimes you aren't working because the work itself is just gone. And that's when you might find yourself on the dole.
Right, a very specific circumstance.
So an IELTS example might be a massive regional factory closing, right? And that leads to a period of taking free online courses to improve a CV while you're on the dole.
Yeah.
Can you clarify the difference between just being unemployed and being on the dole?
So unemployed is just a status. You don't have a job. But being on the dole specifically means you are actively receiving government unemployment benefits.
Oh, so it's about receiving the money.
Yes, the government is doling out support to you.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's swing to the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
You're not on the dole. You're not mucking about. You're hell-bent.
Oh, I love that word. Hell-bent.
Right. It's so intense. Like working late nights to finish a corporate project before a deadline. Or an IELTS goal of finishing a massive creative portfolio by next month.
Just completely focused.
But why use hell-bent instead of just saying someone is really dedicated?
Well, dedicated is positive and structured. Hell-bent carries a reckless, almost dangerous edge to it.
Reckless. How so?
Because you are determined to do it regardless of the risks or the difficulties in your way. You will destroy your health or ignore everything else in your life to get it done.
Wow. Okay. So it's dedication turned up to 11?
Exactly.
And when you are hell-bent, hopefully the result is that you crack it over the fence.
Yeah, a great sports metaphor.
Right, like practicing for weeks and nailing a presentation for the boss. Or getting the top grade in a really difficult class exam. You cracked it over the fence.
Yeah.
Is this just doing a good job?
No, it's way beyond that. Doing a good job is meeting expectations. To crack it over the fence, like hitting a home run in baseball, means a spectacularly outstanding, undeniable success.
There's no debate.
None. Everyone's ought fly out of the park.
So satisfying. Now, for our final section, stepping back and reflecting on all this, we've got the phrase chew on. Like a boss gives you an interesting new project idea. You say, let me chew on that. Or for IELTS, considering moving to a smaller city to slow down.
Yeah.
You're chewing on the idea.
Right.
Why say chew on instead of just think about?
Because thinking about something can be fast. You think about what to eat for lunch. But chewing on implies a slow, deliberate, active processing of complex information.
Like literally chewing a tough piece of food.
Exactly. You're breaking it down to see if you actually want to swallow it and commit to the choice.
Yeah.
And sometimes, while you're chewing on it, you find a grain of sense.
Yeah.
Like finding a useful time management tip inside a really silly joke.
Right.
Or an IELTS anecdote about a friend's ridiculous advice about batching chores that actually ended up saving you time. It had a grain of sense.
I love that.
Is that just a good idea? No, because a good idea is just a standalone thing. A grain of sense specifically means a tiny, surprising piece of wisdom found inside something that is otherwise mostly nonsense or totally wrong.
So it's like a speck of gold in the mud.
Yes, precisely.
And finally, the ultimate reflection at the end of the line, having a good innings.
A very British phrase originally, from cricket.
Right. So a neighbor retiring after 40 happy years of teaching. Or an IELTS story about a grandfather who loved his decades-long career as a carpenter. They had a good innings.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you wouldn't say this about a 25-year-old.
Right, absolutely not. For a 25-year-old, you just say they have a successful career going. A good innings is distinctly retrospective.
Looking back.
Right, it implies a long, full life or career that is nearing its well-deserved end.
Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground, and it is time for the rapid-fire quiz to test your ear for these advanced idioms.
Let's do it.
Okay, for every question, I'm going to read the options, and you, listener, you try to guess the answer. Question 1. Which sentence uses the idiomatic phrase, like a ton of bricks, correctly based on context? Option A, the incredibly exhausted, tired construction worker accidentally drops something resembling a ton of bricks. Option B, the highly aggressive competitive marathon runner desperately wanted to strike a ton of kicks. Option C, that incredibly terrible, unexpected corporate news suddenly hit her like a ton of bricks. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
All right, so the answer is C. The phrase is like a ton of bricks, which we use for sudden, intense, emotional weight, just like we talked about earlier with getting that unexpected news about sudden company changes.
Right. Moving on to question 2. Select the context where the phrase, make a hash of it, is most appropriately used. Option A, lacking sufficient professional experience, he unfortunately completely managed to make a hash of it. Option B, the deeply exhausted, hungry kitchen chef desperately attempted to make a hash of it. Option C, the highly frustrated, angry amateur plumber accidentally attempted to take a splash of it. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct answer here is A. When you make a hash of it, you are creating a complete disorganized mess, usually due to a lack of skill or carelessness. Think back to that example of the boss completely ruining a corporate report or burning the sauce on your first try at cooking. You've made a hash of it.
Exactly. Question 3. In which situation does someone accurately utilize the advanced phrase, a good innings, figuratively? Option A, the highly talented professional cricket player successfully celebrated completing a very good innings today. Option B, before quietly retiring, the beloved senior university professor certainly enjoyed a very good innings. Option C, the hungry, tired, exhausted marathon runner desperately desired a really good pudding to eat. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
So the answer is B. We use a good innings to reflect on a long, fulfilling career or life that's nearing its end. Remember the example of the retiring teacher or the grandfather who spent decades as a carpenter. That is a good innings.
Yep. All right, question 4. Which response best demonstrates the advanced phrase, hell to pay? Option A, if we completely miss this final corporate deadline, there will be hell to pay. Option B, the deeply exhausted, superstitious traveler foolishly believed he possessed some terrible hell to pay. Option C, the frustrated, angry local dairy farmer loudly demanded someone find a bell to play. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
And the answer is A. Hell to pay means there are going to be severe, unavoidable, and systemic consequences. It's the ultimate dread. Like missing a vital client deadline, where the fallout is going to rain down on everyone.
It's never a good situation. Okay, question 5. How would a professional accurately use the phrase, take in your stride? Option A, the highly competitive marathon runner managed to carefully widen the take in your stride. Option B, the incredibly exhausted, tired baker accidentally decided to furiously bake it your fried today. Option C, You absolutely must simply learn to confidently take unexpected daily problems in your stride. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct answer is C. To take in your stride means you deal with difficulties calmly without losing your momentum, like handling unexpected daily routine problems or harsh criticism from your boss without breaking a sweat.
And definitely not furiously baking at your fried, whatever that means.
Yeah, I don't even know what that would look like.
Right. Okay, question 6. Which scenario perfectly illustrates the figurative use of on the dole? Option A, the completely exhausted young kindergarten student desperately wanted to happily sleep on the full. Option B, after the massive regional factory suddenly permanently closed, he briefly survived on the dole. Option C, the deeply exhausted charity worker distributed the heavy canned goods entirely on the dole. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The answer is B. Being on the dole specifically means you are actively receiving government unemployment benefits. Just like our IELTS example where the massive regional factory closes down and people need that support while they figure things out.
Almost done. Question 7. Which sentence accurately utilizes the advanced adjective hell-bent? Option A, she remained absolutely hell-bent on successfully completing that incredibly massive, complicated project before midnight. Option B, the terribly terrified, exhausted mountain hiker discovered a completely dangerous, physically hell-bent metal sign. Option C, the highly enthusiastic, eager camping customer proudly purchased a beautifully green, excellent well tent today. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The answer is A. To be hell-bent means you have this intense, reckless drive to accomplish something, like working late nights to finish a corporate project or being absolutely determined to finish a creative portfolio regardless of the toll it takes on you.
Last one. Question 8. Which of the following statements correctly uses muckabout figuratively? Option A, the heavily exhausted rural agricultural farmer completely needed to aggressively shovel the muck about. Option B, they decided to lazily muck about in the corporate office instead of finishing assignments. Option C, the incredibly frustrated amateur hockey player completely managed to violently strike the puck out. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
And the final answer is B. To muck about means engaging in unserious, unproductive behavior when you definitely should be doing something useful, like avoiding a serious project by watching silly DIY videos online.
Phew. Wow. Okay, congratulations if you made it through that entire vocabulary workout. That was a lot of advanced language to process.
It really was. But you know, language really shapes how we perceive our own actions. Well, think about it. If you tell yourself you are just relaxing, you might feel fine. But if you're honest and admit you are mucking about out of sheer cussedness, does that change how you choose to spend your next hour? I think it's a really interesting thought to chew on.
Oh, that is definitely something to chew on. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really encourage you to confidently use these phrases in your next English conversation or your next exam.